note. Today's lesson, very nice lesson, very practical lesson, and things that we ask of you all the time, and things that I think you are getting aware of in the digital space. All right, oral presentations and communication in the digital age. Okay, so we first start with oral presentations. There's different terminology that you can use for oral presentations. We can use public speaking, speeches, talks, all right? So that's all the different terminology you can use for oral presentations, all right? That's Learning Unit 10 in your study guide. And we have an online resource also called Online Oral Presentations under your online resources section on my UNISA. So please download that as well. It's very, very important information. Oh, yes, one more announcement. I did put it in the announcement, but I forgot to mention. I didn't realize while uploading some of the online resources, we figured that Learning Unit 4 and 5, the online resource was uploaded halfway. That was a mistake on my side, and I didn't check it, and I don't know what happened, but I have updated it. And I've checked all the online resources now, and all seem to be fine from my side when I download the entire folder. If you have a problem and you find an issue where online learning resource seems half or not uploaded completely, because you'll see it starts with the heading and it ends with list of sources consulted. So if you have that, if you don't see that and you see something's not correct, or you feel that it's not complete, please let me know so I can see what's going on. So far, I've checked it again after I got the query for Learning Unit 4 and 5, and they seem to be fine now, and I've updated it as well. I've even put in an announcement for that. Okay, so moving forward, we need to know what business speaking is, right? Remember that, public speaking, oral presentation, it's a skill that you learn. You're not born knowing how to communicate in front of an audience, whether it's talking online to a digital audience or face to face. It's still a skill that you need to learn, or whether you're just writing a speech. It's a skill that you need to learn, and this is what we're trying to teach you. That's why all the things you've learned so far about persuasive writing and brainstorming and all that is going to be applied in the oral presentation setting. Okay, so very important. You need to plan and you need to think critically. So what do? You first start with understanding your target audience. That's very important. You need to know, who am I targeting for this speech or this talk? Very important. You also need to know what is the goal and the purpose of your presentation. Okay, that means you got a certain goal. You want to inform the public about something. You want to persuade them about something. You want to instruct them about something. What do you want to do? Okay, so ask yourself, because that is going to change your entire persuasive technique. It's going to change your approach. Okay, even so these are all important things. And then decide on a topic. So 3 important things you must do before. Your audience analysis. You must know what the goal and purpose of your presentation is, and your topic or theme. Those 3 are interrelated. If you do not know those things, you're going to have a mess of a situation for your oral presentation. Like I told you, it's preparation and critical thinking. That's why we're teaching you these things, all right? So important thing, you need to brainstorm key points or takeaways for your audience. Either you do the brainstorm in a group setting, because you're going to work in an organization, and many times it's a team-based approach, or you work with a colleague, or you work on your own as well. So even if you're working on your own, you need to jot down ideas. For now, in your assignments, you're working on your own. So you need to jot down these ideas, okay, and understand. So you can only jot down ideas if you know the first 3 things: your audience, the goal and purpose of your presentation, and your topic or theme. Topic and theme. Sometimes a theme is bigger and you go into a more specific topic. All right. For instance, if your theme is on health and you want to talk about, maintaining good health in the workplace, can you see it's a specific topic? Right. So can you see it becomes from general to specific? You need to know that before you can brainstorm ideas. Okay. You need to plan your strategy for delivery. You need to say, am I having this online? Is it face-to-face? What am I going to do? Am I going to record a video of my presentation? Or what am I going to do? I don't know how the student's video is on. Okay. So what am I going to do? So you need to find out what your strategy is. Am I going to use visual aids? Am I going to use statistics and graphs? Is that what my presentation and my goal requires of me? What am I going to be doing? Am I going to have a face-to-face talk? Am I going to have types of visual aids like a flip chart? Or am I going to have printed pictures? What am I going to do and how am I going to present that? How am I going to present myself? Is this more of a formal setting, more of an informal setting, more of a group setting in a meeting setting? Remember, it can be different in a meeting setting from when you're going to present a talk to maybe grade twos about crossing the road safely. Or it's going to be different if you're going presenting your financial report to management. So can you see the different type of setting is so important and your audience is so important. We have different types of oral presentations: informative, instructive, persuasive. These are only three that I've mentioned. There are a lot more. These are three basic ones. So I want you to think about different talks. And when we start with the, sorry about that, I didn't know it was being shared. If we start with these three basic talks, I want you to think about different talks. And when we start with the questions, then you can actually start telling me if you have encountered different types of talks. I would like to hear your voice, all right? I'm just going to go through the presentation quickly, and then we can start with the questions. So when you're planning and preparing your talk, important thing, brainstorm. So once I told you about those three important points, your target audience, your goal and purpose, your theme and topic, then you can brainstorm. You can quickly brainstorm some ideas before you do research, and then you can do your research and then plan your mind map. Can you see these different steps? The brainstorming session is more informal. Then you, from those steps, you're saying, okay, I want to research. For instance, let's get back to my example about health and maintaining good health in the workplace. So you've brainstormed some ideas and say, okay, exercise in the workplace, getting away from the desktop, having an airy office, having healthy food options in the workplace, all right, having consistent breaks, things like that. So I got those few ideas. That's brainstorming. So now let me go and research those ideas. So I had those 5 or 6 ideas. Now let me go and research them. Let me go and research how to have a better working environment to improve health, to improve mental health, to improve physical health. So now I'm researching all those things, all right? So once I've researched all that, I found a few articles on all those 5 or 6 topics. And now I need to plan my mind map. Remember, mind map is not random. A lot of students just think, just give me any piece of nonsense writing that doesn't make sense and doesn't relate to your writing. That's not what a mind map is. Mind map is actually, can you see, it's a third step of the planning process and means that you've done some research and you understand what needs to be done. Okay, so this is really, really important for you to understand. So when you plan your mind map, in the center, you're going to have your central thesis statement, and you're going to have 4 or 5 key topics, or you call them topic sentences, means that these are the key ideas in each of your paragraphs, all right, that you're going to be using. Or maybe one key idea will be used in 2 paragraphs. You can have a longer essay, all right, or longer talk. Okay, so that means that what you're going to be doing now is finding a key point that's going to be expanded on in your essay or in your oral presentation. Can you see how similar all the writing is? You have similar types of writing. So the writing process is very similar for different types of business documents. Okay, so that's very important. So the mind map should not be random. You jot down your main points for each of those ideas in your mind map that's after doing research. Can you see that? And you need to identify, or you've identified your thesis statement and your substantiating points, but you can refine them as you've completed your research and your planning of the mind map, right? So you can refine them, make sure that is correct before you start writing, okay? So very, very important. I've mentioned this to you. Remember, as you have your main points, you must understand your audience. So at this point, you can do a further audience analysis. And in your learning materials, that means in your study guide and in your online learning resource, we tell you about the different types of audience analysis. So you need to look at this and see now, I need to understand what is the age of my audience. Remember now, for instance, I'm going to speak to grade 2 children about crossing the roads. How is that different from talking to the management in your accounting firm about your financial report? So there, can you see two different audiences and how different your writing can be? So you need to do the demographic, psychological, situational analysis for your audience and speak according to that. You can't obviously speak in high terminology to grade 2s, right? And you can't speak like a grade 2 child for your management. Okay, can you see what I'm saying? So you have to change the way you speak, what you speak about, also your tone, your voice, your language, all right, and the information you use. I've mentioned about visual aids. Remember, there's different types of visual aids. Could be digital, you could use a PowerPoint presentation, you could use videos. It depends on what you want to use, and it all depends on the goal and purpose of your talk, right? Voice projection and other aspects of paralanguage are also important about speech. Remember, you've been to some speeches. Oh, I shouldn't say this. Remember, we listened to the president's speeches now and again. Initially, we were quite excited about it, but now we all get so tired, especially when he starts, oh, my fellow South Africans, we just want to run away and hide, right? Because we're so tired of hearing the same thing over and over in the same tone of voice, okay? So that's important to change your tone of voice and also paralanguage, the way you speak, the inflections you use. There's lots of different things that paralanguage entails, and I want you to think about that. The presentation and organization of yourself and the talk. There are different ways you can present your talk, right? And organize your talk. See, there's a pattern. You can use a cause and effect pattern, problem and solution, primacy, recency, topical, etc. These are all different ways of presenting your talk because you want to see now, what do you want your audience to take away from this? Do you want them to remember the cause and effect? Do you want them to remember one main point only? Do you want to remember what the problem is and what the solution is? Do you want to want them to remember the main point right at the beginning or the last point at the end? So these will all change the way you present yourself and the talk and your voice projection, your visual aids, all that. Because remember, your audience mind works in different ways. So if you understand your audience, you will see that. And remember, I spoke about persuasive talking in the last lesson. Was it the last lesson or the one before that? Yeah, the one before that. So remember, we have to avoid being unethical. And there's ethical ways of persuasion. And what is your persuasive technique? All right. And remember, when we're persuading people, we don't just give them only the information that's good. You have to give them the pros and cons of certain things. All right. For instance, if you're talking about vaccination, you have to give them the pros and cons of everything. Just giving the pros of everything is very manipulative. That is called unethical persuasion, right? And that's what we need to avoid. Okay, I know these are all very topical topics and themes that we're all involved in South Africa, and I think globally. That's why I mentioned them. And you as a communication student should understand that, okay? And especially in finance. Remember, in finance, we have a lot of unethical practice, which I will deal with now in Learning Unit 11, right? So we want to avoid that unethical practice. We want to create ethical financial people, right? People with ethics in business and in the accounting field, okay? The final step now, you get many different ways to prepare your speech. Remember, writing a speech is not an easy task. I mentioned all those steps that you have. Now, once you've done all of that and you've done all your situation analysis and your brainstorming, your planning, all of those things are done. Now, how do you move forward? So there are many different outlines and strategies to plan. And the one that we're using in this course is called Monroe's Motivator Sequence. I see many students don't read it and go over it and they don't understand it. That's why I'm putting it now. I'm highlighting it and I'm telling you what to do. So once all of those steps are done, you need to present an outline of a talk, not the talk itself. So once you have all your ideas, how do you put them together? And then you see, once you have this outline, and then you can complete your talk. right? And write out your entire talk or speech. Okay, remember, speech writing is also an important skill. Even our president said that look for speech writers. You will see in job applications, they look for speech writers. The speech writing is not an easy thing to do. That's why we're teaching this to you, all right? Now, when you will see the business templates in Learning Units 4 and 5, remember I told you all those videos that are uploaded with different templates. So we need to follow that template, and you have a 5-step approach here. The first thing, remember, very important, this is an outline of the talk, not the full talk. Okay, so the outline is going to help you to expand on it and write the talk. And usually we don't ask you to write the talk for us. We're just teaching you how to prepare this outline so that you can write a talk later. Remember, preparing an outline is just like writing a talk as well, because you've got all the planning in there. Okay, then to expand it, it's not so difficult, right? I know if I have to speak, I just have these points ready for me, and I can expand on it without having the whole talk in front of me. Even though I wrote out the speech, I can expand on it, and that's what we want of you. If you've done your research well, if you understand the topic well, you can just speak about it, okay? So important thing here, you will have the purpose, the title, the audience. Many times the audience is left out in the template, but sometimes we ask you for that, okay, in the template. It's important to have that. And if it's not asked in a template, you should have it at the back of your mind, because without understanding the audience, you can't write a topic. You can't write a speech, right, on a specific theme. There are 5 steps to this approach. You have attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, action. Now, each of these asks a different thing, and usually we ask you to either put in 2 or 3 or 4 points or sentences. You write full sentences, but numbered, so it shows what you have under each section. And this is the approach that we are following. Can you see we're actually following the problem solution type of action here and organization. So the first thing you do is attention, grab the audience's attention with an important topic or important saying or something, but related to your topic, not unrelated. That's important. If I ask you for 3 sentences, there has to be 3 attention-grabbing sentences, okay? They're usually numbered. We've given you the template. Need. The need actually wants you to identify the problem, right? What is the problem? There's a need for improving the health in organizations. Now, that's only one point. So how can you expand that further? Physical and mental health is a problem in the workplace in South Africa or globally. Okay, so you basically giving us a problem. You can even state some stats. So 3 points there related to your topics. I hope you're understanding. Under satisfaction, we want a specific type of solution. Solution to health issues could be creating a healthier work environment. Can create more physical, include more physical activity within the workplace. And how do you do that? But you need to say how you're going to do that, right? So what's your solution to that? We can improve the eating habits of people in the workplace by introducing healthier food options or things like that. Can you see what I'm saying? Solution to the problem. Visualization is motivation. How do you motivate them? You make them visualize things for the future when the solution has been implemented. Imagine working in an environment where you don't feel stressed out and mentally exhausted or physically exhausted, where you can have healthy foods. You feed your mind and your body, all right? For instance, you give examples of that, right? I'm just giving you simple things. Action is feasible action. We don't see that with students, right? Sometimes they say, no, we need to eat healthy. That's not a feasible action. So how are you going to introduce that? You've got a problem, the solution, motivation. Now you need a feasible action. We have drawn up a list of items that are needed in the organization to implement healthier eating. We will distribute this to all staff members. Please fill it out by the end of the month. That's one action item. All right. Can you see it's an action item? We're going to do something, and how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it. All right. Forward your names to this person, for instance. Okay. Can you see that? We need to have, we are approaching management to do a study in the workplace to understand what are the needs for a healthier environment. Please fill out the survey. Okay, something like that. Okay, can you see what I'm saying? Feasible action plans. Okay, I hope that makes you understand that Public speaking is a skill that you need to learn, and you can become a better speaker by applying certain types of skills, and that's what we're trying to teach you. So everything you've learned from Unit 1 to now has actually helped you to write more persuasively, to understand your audience better, and to be able to present your work more methodically, systematically, and to be able to be ethically persuasive in your writing and in your speaking. Okay. And remember, all things about verbal, non-verbal communication, listening, all comes into place and culminates into an oral presentation. All of those things are important. Okay. For reading, writing, all of those. Finally, this is a very nice unit that we've just introduced this year. It's communication in the digital age. We had bits and pieces in other learning units, and we also included them in some assessments, but now we thought we need to actually expand on this within a learning unit. Now, there's no online learning resources for this learning unit because we integrated everything together. Very, very important. We touch on this in Learning Unit 1, I think, and in Learning Unit 11, Learning Unit 10. We do touch on this a bit, but we expand on it here. We talk about culture, culture within the workplace. Very, very important to understand culture in the workplace. Remember, we're working in a multicultural, international environment now, and with the digital world, all these boundaries have fallen away. So we need to understand how to interact in intercultural, multicultural, international settings, right? So very, very important, and we have to work and understand these ethically. Very important terminology to understand and know, and I want you to go and read this and study this. Beliefs, attitudes, values, traditions. Try and understand what each of those means, and then you can analyze yourself and see, what are my beliefs, attitudes, values, and traditions? How do I interact with people from another culture, another group, from another nation, from another country, okay, from another region? How do they interact with them? Or how will I interact with someone like that in my workplace? Okay, and how should I interact with someone like that at the workplace? Okay. Uh, Now, more important terminology, you need to know the difference between culture and intercultural communication. Okay, so intercultural communication and intracultural communication are quite different. I'm sure you can get a little bit of an idea from what we did before with intra and interpersonal communication. Now we're moving a little further from intra and intercultural communication. I've put some examples here, but I'm not going to discuss them now. I want you to read it and understand it, and you can pose questions to us in further classes or in your online discussions, right? And I want you to talk to each other about it. Another important term is cross-cultural communication. So cross-cultural communication is different from intra and inter cultural communication, right? So these are all important aspects that you need to focus on. And then we have multicultural communication. Can you see these are all terms very closely related but different? I want you to go through all of these. These are all in your learning resources and try and understand them. But I think I'm making you aware of these things. So you should be yeah, you should be quite interested in understanding them. So you're going to go through all your learning units quite carefully, all right? And then we have international communication. Remember, communicating internationally will involve a lot of intercultural, multicultural communication as well, right? So you need to think about this, see this. We've given you some examples as well. I've put some examples here. They are in your learning units as well. See that and try and understand that, because we will ask that of you in your different scenarios. Not to make things difficult for you, but to make you understand when you in these type of working environments, how do you interact? How am I interacting? To make you start thinking a little better and to be more empathetic, all right, in the workplace. Very important terminology, ethnocentrism. This means that, you know what? We think that our group of people are better than your group of people. And sometimes it can be, you know, unknowingly that we feel that way and we look down upon others, which is a problem. Ethnocentrism can have positive feelings of belonging and this and that, but it has more negative effects than positive effects. And these are important terms to understand, that are we so ethnocentric that we do not actually understand another person's culture, or we look down upon someone else because of that? Okay, sometimes you don't have to agree with everybody, but you can accommodate or understand, or, be empathetic. You don't always have to agree, remember, right? We can move towards consensus. Remember, consensus doesn't mean you agree with everything, but you can move forward amicably. I hope that makes sense to you, all right? Very important terminology, stereotypes. Okay. Stereotypes stem from bias and prejudice. I want you to know all of these terms. These terminology are very, very important. Now, stereotypes are generalization about a group of people that oversimplifies their culture. We can talk about oversimplifying. For instance, we'll say all women are bad drivers, all men are bad cooks. That's a stereotype. Okay, have you met all men in the whole world? Have you met all women in the whole world? Maybe there, you've seen a few, and there's a general trend with the few people that you know, but it's basically socially constructed and stems from bias and prejudice and based on random choice or personal whim. See, if you want to get to know a certain group of people better or a certain person better, we need to start thinking what our bias is, what our prejudice is, and what our stereotypes are. If we understand that, then we can make a more informed and more logical appreciation and conclusion and deduction about a certain person or a certain group of people, all right? But we need to avoid the generalizations that are based on only a few certain encounters that we had, right? Okay. Okay, the final step in this module is your digital footprint and ethics in communication. Very, very important. Many students ignore this, or you don't even know about this. Being in the digital workplace, you first of all have your individual digital footprint, which is so, so important in crafting your organizational footprint. Remember, what you post online, what you share via email, via social media, is very, very important in crafting your integrity, your character, all right? And also affects your workplace personality. Another thing is also with workplace information that's been shared. You have to be very careful of sharing workplace information on social media platforms or via email, or sharing unverified information like that, or even verified information without the permission of your organization. Because organizations have rules, have confidentiality clauses, privacy clauses. You can affect your work, the security of your job, can affect your integrity. A lot of libels and suits have been created against people and organizations for doing that and for sharing business ideas from one to the other. Sometimes you do it unknowingly, sometimes you do it knowingly. These are all important things that you need to safeguard in the digital environment. Also, when you are meeting online, you have to be very careful about sharing personal information or information about others. Even in a team, in a group, working in a Zoom environment, in a Teams environment, all those things are really, really important. And these are important concepts that you need to take note of and need to understand, which is in your study guide and in your learning units. We explained to you about the ethics of texting, the ethics of email, the ethics of working in a digital world, understanding what a digital footprint is. Remember, everything you put online leaves a digital footprint. So you have to be very, very careful about what you share online. All right. So these are important aspects that you need to be aware of for yourself and for your business. All right. So now we have completed our lesson